Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Universal 5 Volume 2. In this episode, I'm going to be recreating a solar system out of black objects, but this time we're going to do things a little bit differently, with having these planets have some pretty weird orbits and weird colors and all of this random jazz to basically make it seem more like the weird system and the solar system of black objects kind of just came together, and just see what would happen. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Let's first begin by making the actual, black colored star of our system that we're calling Juggernaut. It's not that big of a star, it's actually pretty small. As I mentioned before, it's jet black, only has around a temperature around 700 degrees Kelvin, but it is still hot enough, per se, to provide some form of light and some form of heat so that these planets just aren't sitting at, like, negative degree temperatures, because then it wouldn't really work as a system in that case. The fun to this, however, is that because this star is so small, and because it doesn't have a lot of heat, it definitely can make some orbits for some of the planets very weird and all over the place. To add a bunch of, well, quite literally, literal lag, I'm going to add several different types of rings around Juggernaut. This way it just kind of creates almost like the aesthetic that a solar system is forming. Now again, there's going to be planets that are getting thrown into this, so the rings aren't going to be completely perfect as they see right now, and they're going to be a bit all over the place, which is going to cause lag later in the line, but it's just kind of what we have to deal with in this situation. And now, finally, our first planet in the system is named Custard, conveniently themed straight out of the Teletubbies cartoon series with Tubby Custard, because why not? There's nothing really special about this planet. It's pretty straightforward, it's dark, it's small, and there's nothing too special about it. Our second planet is Buga. Well, it's made to be a habitable world, but in reality it's not really doing that. Yes, it has the water, and yes, it has the atmosphere, but this planet's orbit is kind of all over the place, so sometimes it's not frozen, and sometimes it is. So if you want to experience Earth as the Ice Age, then this place might be a good place to go. Our third planet is, surprisingly enough, the soon-to-be renamed Vignetti. We'll rename it Vignetti a little bit later on down the line. Out of all of the habitable planets, this one has some pretty nasty winters, and it freezes up quite a lot, similarly to that of Buga. But on the plus side, it freezes up a lot worse, so if you want to have really nice winters, you want to go skiing and, freeze in 3 seconds, then, this is the place for you. Our fourth planet in the system is Delano. Yes, this is a really weird name, but just run with it. It's a pretty simple, small, typical desert world, and it's quite odd, basically, because, well, its orbit's all over the place, and its temperatures are all over the place, but think of this planet as kind of like Mars, except, well, it's much colder, there's no moons, and there's no atmosphere. Okay, maybe it's not Mars quite, but I mean, the colors match, sort of, to some degree. Our fifth planet is, surprisingly, the closest planet to our star, the most habitable planet, and has crazy seasons all over the place, and that is Fjord. The seasons here are pretty crazy, as with the way the star makes orbits work, sometimes this planet hits as low as 6 degrees Celsius and as high as 100 degrees Celsius. So it is habitable. I want to preface that it is habitable, but it is pretty crazy, to put it bluntly. Our final major planet of the system is Quinzac. It's a pretty straightforward gas giant with nothing too crazy going on about it, and is the only planet in the system to have proper moons, shockingly enough. Now we're just going to go through some last minute changes on the system. These things can include things like changing some orbits around, renaming a couple of objects like we're going to do with Vignetti, and just, well, making things, look nice. Because, well, if everything was, black colored in the system, it'd be kind of hard to see all of it. So the perfect black aesthetic isn't really something I can pull off here, but I'm going to try to make it as best or as close as I can get to it while making sure you can at least see everything. Now we're going to add just a pretty simplistic quick background. For this, because obviously I can't really go with black so it would look kind of bland, I'm instead going to go with a more black toned kind of gray background. So that way it still provides a bit more of a, creepy and scary like aesthetic, but it does provide some kind of meaning to the system. And now, with all of that complete craziness out of the way, we can now see the much new and improved solar system out of black objects. So, that is going to conclude this episode of the Universal 5 Volume 2. And where do I begin? Honestly, like, this is probably one of the most fun systems or solar systems or videos as regard of Universe Sandbox that I've done in a very long time. I don't know what it was about this star and its orbits and just how this system did as far as, how planets orbited and what planets were doing, but whatever it was, it just really made me excited, and it really just kind of gave me the inspiration of I want to do more systems like this later on the line. So don't be surprised if the next episode, which in this case will be the weird system, don't be surprised if that video is to have some of the things that you might have seen in this video, because honestly, this is one of the more interesting and fun systems that I've created within the last year or two. But if you've enjoyed this episode of the Universal 5 Volume 2 and you want to see some more space videos like this one, make sure you leave a like down below and we'll see what happens. But that's all for now. My name is PandaPowerSauce. Remember to stay saucy, and we'll see you again next. I'm gonna butcher the sentence. We'll see you again in 2 weeks from now with the weird system. It's the complete opposite of the average system, definitely. We'll see you then. Later.